Day where we answer questions on Ask the Millionaire. I'm Marc Kramer. Sorry about that. I'm Marc Kramer, and I'm looking forward to tackling the great questions that we have today. First question comes from Selena Medina. Selena asks, what's a good way to develop a business plan? What's a good way to develop a business plan? I have a service-based business, tattoos. I have a ton of ideas and fragments and text, but I really don't know the first thing about writing a business plan. What should I include? So, Selena, I've written about 150 business plans and continue to write them for my own ventures as well as other people. So here's what you need to do if you're writing a plan, and there are two types of plans. One plan is if you're raising capital, and another plan is an operating plan to go and run the business. I'm assuming here that you're writing an operating plan to go and run this business, that you're not necessarily raising capital. So if you're writing an operating plan, you want to understand what exactly are you offering and who are you offering it to. So you might start with this one by saying our mission is to provide tattoos for people of this certain age group, of this certain economic background, in this certain geographic area. And you'd have to understand the kind of people that like to wear tattoos. Now, when I'm 61, when I was younger, very few people wore tattoos. But now tattoos go across. I think now more people have tattoos than don't have tattoos, which is great for your industry. So you want to understand, who are you trying to market to? How best to go and market to those people. So what's the best way? How do people learn about tattoo parlors that they go to them? Is it print advertising? Is it email campaigns? Is it putting it on Facebook? Is it showing pictures on Instagram? Is it having all of your customers post on Instagram the picture of the tattoo and where they got from? So you have to figure out who your target market is, what geographic area you're serving, who are you really trying to market to, because you really can't market to everybody in there. And you might say to yourself, you know, we really want to market to young people over the age of 21 because over their lifetime they'll get more tattoos. If I'm marketing to Marc Kramer, who's 61, Mark might just get one tattoo just because he wants to feel like in his lifetime he did something kind of really cool and out there that he normally wouldn't do. But if you look at young people, they keep adding tattoos on throughout their life, and so you have to think about the lifetime value of a customer. So I think that would be really powerful for you. And then in your plan, you got to figure out, do I have a store? Do I outfit a van and drive it around and I'm able to go to any geographic location? What's the cost going to be to go and do this? And create a spreadsheet that says, here's what all the inks and equipment and insurance and all the things that you're going to have to spend money on to get this up. And how many of these tattoos do you have to do per hour to go and do it? Maybe when you do a tattoo, you're estimating the value of that estimating the cost of doing that tattoo, or maybe you telling people, hey, I charge you by the hour. My guess is that you probably charge a flat rate because nobody wants to know that you could end up taking 6 hours when it took 3 to go and do it. So you have to figure out what's your cost going to be to go and develop each of these tattoos, how long that's going to take, how much money do you need to go and make to cover all your expenses and to make money for yourself so you can cover your rent or your mortgage, your car, if you're married and you have family, you know, all of those kinds of things. And then you have to think about, do I want to go beyond me? Do I want to go and hire other tattoo artists? Do I want to create a regional brand, maybe a statewide brand, or even a national brand where you're opening up in different cities and thinking to yourself, I'm going to make something really big here. I'm going to make a lot of money off of this, because I don't know that there is a tattoo brand that you can go from city to city and know, and especially with young people moving around so much, that if they knew they wanted to get another tattoo and they knew there was a McDonald's of tattoos to go to, maybe that's a great opportunity for people. Again, you want to put all this on paper. You want to go and say who your target market is, how you plan to market it, how you plan to go and sell it. If there's aftercare, if there's like a client retention, how do you keep them coming back and getting more tattoos? How do you get them to give you referrals? Putting a spreadsheet together and doing all the costs. Maybe Sean sometime will have me do an online seminar, like a Zoom seminar on writing business plans, and I'd be glad to do it. And the other plan would be, trying to raise capital, maybe even getting a bank loan and showing a banker, here's the opportunity that I'm going after. Here's how big the market is. Here's the services we're offering. Here are the revenue streams that we're going to get from offering tattoos. And here's our financial model to show them what the projections are going to be. So I think it's really cool. Obviously, a lot of people like it. So I think you're in a good space. And I can see from the number of people I see wearing tattoos of all shapes, sizes, colors, ages, that you should be very successful. So I wish you all the best. The next question comes from Ricardo Delgado. Ricardo writes, how do I start a grand opening for my business? Are there any tips I should do or know before doing so? And do you think it's important that I do one? I started my business in 2020 and never did a grand opening. I want to do a grand opening, want to know if any mentors have experience with this. Also, planning this can prepare for any future events and any type of advice. Thank you. So grand opening used to be like a really big deal. I did multiple grand openings, and I would have jugglers and people blowing up balloons, do all kinds of things to drive people in to want to come and experience it. You would go and do giveaways and so forth. But a lot of people put the grand opening sign on the door, but there's no splash. There's no reason for people to come, because they could come any day. It's not like, oh, the first day we're giving everything 50% off because you want people to experience you and then tell the whole community about you. So grand opening has really taken has become less than it used to be. But if you want to make it more for your business, then I would say, like in your particular case, you're running a barber shop, according to your information. And if you're running a barber shop, you might say, I'm giving haircuts for 50% off today, just to get people in and showing their cuts and taking pictures of their haircuts and putting it on Instagram so people can see all the cool stuff, and people can self-identify through age and ethnicity and style of cut and all these different things. But if you're going to do it, and you might go and get like the most famous DJ in your area and give them a free haircut, or news people and do it for them. Or you might, in your grand opening, say, I'm giving haircuts to all veterans that come. So the TV cameras cover your event and the newspaper covers your event. So think of something that's truly unique that you can offer in this grand opening, so people want to come to you and experience the way you cut their hair. So I think that grand opening can be grand if in fact you make it special. So our next question comes from Mark Gibson. What process would be best to define leap of faith assumptions when trying to bring a product to market that has never been developed before? Currently developing a non-technical data analytics tool because intelligence for small businesses to be able to readily have access to data analytics. We're currently in the period of uncertainty of who our initial target audience will be. Currently working on developing a minimally viable product that encompasses KPIs that most businesses would find useful. We're looking to gather attention off of our basic KPI framework for most businesses. After defining our key assumptions on a target audience, we'll look to present our current MVP, further refine the KPIs to that particular business model. So here's what I would suggest to you, and I have a lot of experience developing different types of businesses where you had to actually figure out what you're actually going to, how you can project what kind of revenue streams could happen out of this, and what the value is going to be. So right now I'm in a metaverse project, and so the best way to do it is you develop a financial model and you show all the levels of detail. So in our particular case, what we're doing is we're showing a model where it shows who we're targeting. So in our case, we're talking about people from the metaverse, and there's 79 million of them. So we're not going after all 79 million. We're looking at what email marketing list can we go and buy. And so we know that we can initially buy a 1 million person email list of people who play Fortnite and those kinds of games. So you would go maybe and buy an email list, or you would join a meetup group or a bunch of meetup groups that target your market, or you might join the local chamber of commerce and you're marketing through them at first, and you're offering to go and do explain how these kinds of services and products can make a difference in your company, whether it's your product or somebody else's product, and explaining it and weave your story into it so people understand that. But you need to go and identify who the market is that you're after. So if you said, we're after small businesses and we're going to focus on accounting firms and law firms, and then you'd figure out how many of those firms exist either in your region or your state or a tri-state area or nationally that you're going after. And then you've got to develop a database of contacts that you can market to be able to go and get those people, to reach those people on there. And then you want to go and develop a 1-minute video. It explains exactly what you do. I use one for a venture I started called Funding Organizer, and in like 1 minute and 2 seconds it explains it beautifully. I'm using tunes to go and explain it, so you can go and explain how your product works from that, and do case studies and show people different things that you're doing. But when you're creating all those things, all you can do, the only way you can go and take that leap of faith is identify the market and put a detailed financial model that basically shows, here's how many we're going after, here's the percentage that we're emailing, here's the percentage who will respond, we believe will respond to our email, here's the percentage of people that will actually take a first meeting, a second meeting, and then to close the sale. So, and you could look at other industries that sell similar products to get percentages of what that might be. Like if you were selling insurance, there's an 85% closure rate in insurance. And so you look at that industry average and know that that's what it is. Or the industry average for the first email, the percentage of people that actually open it and read it might be 10%, and the percentage of the 10% that actually will respond to you is 25%. So you find similar industries, use those statistics to develop your financial model, and then you take it from there. So I would go and spend a lot of time on my financial model. I do for all my ventures. This metaverse venture, we're basically guessing, but we have a very strong methodology for how we came to our numbers. And it was like when you were in school and you did had a math test, and the teacher said, I want to see all the work and how you arrived at your answer. So you got partial credit for doing all the work, but you might have arrived at the wrong answer. That's the same thing when you're doing a startup. It's more for the investors and for yourself to see how did you arrive at the answer, so they can see there was a thought out process and methodology for that. Best of luck with your new venture. I think it sounds interesting. I'd like to see it myself. The next one comes from Gabriella Binkley. Gabriella writes, should I validate my service and business process before offering my services to the public? I'm a prospect finder. I help independent professionals build their success network by reaching out to their ideal prospects. I've been working with my first client and I'm enjoying the learning experience. She's also enjoying this opportunity to do something she's never done for her business. This service contract covers a 3-month period. I would have preferred to teach her the prospect finding, contacting process. This would have enabled me to dedicate time to reach new prospects. I feel like experience has given me a better way to market my service before sharing this with a large group of connections like my social media contacts. I agree with you totally when you write that saying, should you use the service yourself first? I think you should develop your process and methodology, use it for yourself, see how many customers you get, where the mistakes are, how you can go and fix those. And then once you've done that, then you're able to go and offer and say, I eat my own dog food. Let me show you what I've done and how it's worked for me. And I would always, in your particular case, because there's so much competition out there, I would give them a certain amount of leads that you're going to help them get before they have to pay you. So you need to offer them something to show. Or like when I do marketing PR for people, I tell them, as opposed to charging $5,000 a month, I'm going to charge you $3,000 a month, and the rest is bonus based on performance, so I have skin in the game as well. But I think for you, best way to go is test your own process and methodology, see how many clients that you get from it, and that way you're able to go and show the progression of how you use your own process and methodology and what the results were. And you'll learn a lot yourself, and even how to tighten up and improve your own system. But I like what you're doing. I think a lot of people need that. And I think a lot of business owners don't want to be necessarily doing it. They want to hire somebody else to go and handle that for them, because they just want to do the actual work itself, or just want to keep managing people and add more people on, but don't want to do that particular function, which opens up a lot of opportunity for people like yourself. So I like it, Gabriella. I look forward to hearing more about what you're doing there. The next question comes from Bob Gier. Bob writes, is leading with price the best way to start a sales conversation with a prospect? I'm promoting a software and services package that's drastically less expensive than competitors. At the top of my funnel to get prospects on demo calls, should my messaging be focused on price? The goal of my business is to make cybersecurity tools more accessible to organizations by reducing total cost of ownership. The existing solutions for the niche I work have high costs for software licenses and services. I'm developing a super lightweight software solution to solve same problem at 20% the price of other options. My target companies would have 3,000 employees, and my solution would be priced at 20,000 versus 100,000 by competitors. You're not going to like what I'm going to tell you here, Bob, and that is, I have found, and I've worked with a lot of clients who have done trying to undercut the market in terms of price, thinking if I offer for less, I'll get more clients. But that's not necessarily the case. A lot of times people look and say, wait a minute, if 4 companies are charging $80,000 for this and he's charging $20,000 for this, how good could he be? I mean, if the others are all charging $80,000, maybe the quality isn't as good. Maybe what he's offering isn't as good. So I would never start off with price. I would start off with finding out what is the problem that they're dealing with and what their concerns are for cybersecurity, any issues that they had. Then I would talk about how my product can handle this for them. And then I would talk about your pricing model and how that works. But I certainly would not, you're saying here that the competitors are charging $100,000 and you're charging $80,000. I mean, that's an 80% difference in it. So I would go, and you could actually even be the most expensive. If your product is better than everybody else's and it shortens the pain or reduces or eliminates the pain, you can probably charge more than the competition if your product is that much better. I kind of think when people see this, they look at it and say, you know what, it probably isn't as strong or as good as others. I mean, Why do people buy more expensive headsets? Like I just bought a headset that I'm just carrying in my backpack for when I need it, and I only paid it $15. But if I had that wear that headset every single day, I'd have probably bought the $150 headset. But I only need it for when I'm traveling, I'm at a conference, and I need to be able to hear people on my Zoom or whatever I'm doing. So I would definitely not look at necessarily being the lowest price, and I would lead with why your product is better than the other products that they can buy out there, and what guarantees that you're providing on your products to tell people, you take my product, you can go to sleep at night knowing that you're secure in whatever they're trying to secure. So I would focus on the quality of the product, and I would have a price that either is same or maybe I would go a little bit higher. I mean, I taught 10 years at the Wharton School, and my boss was an expert in pricing. And he always used to tell me, because I would do what you're doing, figuring if I underpriced the market, then I'd get all this business for people looking for savings. But in large companies in particular, the ones you're handling, it's not people's money. So a lot of times employees are just saying, I just want to get the best product that I won't lose any sleep over. When I'm 61, when I was younger, people would always engage IBM because their slogan was, no one ever got fired for hiring IBM. But all of a sudden, there were other people that in some cases were more expensive than IBM, but they had a better product. So you have to take a look at how your product stacks up, and you should have a matrix that you can go and show customers a comparison to what you're offering compared to what they're offering. If you still want to offer a lower price, you can say, we're giving you all of these things more than the competition and at a lower price. I don't think you need to go with a lower price. I think if your product is that good, don't make the mistake I used to make, which was I was afraid to ask for that higher price, thinking I wouldn't get the business, but my boss was right, taught almost 40 years at the Wharton School, was a very successful entrepreneur. He said you can always come down in price, but you can never come up. So learn from the masters. Our next question comes from Lysandra Wilson. Lysandra writes, what are sales strategies you would use to market your baker dessert services in a local area? I have a custom cake and dessert bakery. I'm already hungry now. Even though I'm a diabetic, I still like to have that chocolate icing and chocolate vanilla cake or strawberries inside of it, or raspberries. So I'm getting hungry for this. And I'm trying to do more weddings and events. I want to move into creating dessert bar tables for events instead of lots of small cakes and dessert orders. Do you recommend cold calling, emailing as a way to connect with other businesses and vendors? If so, what tips do you have to be successful in doing so? If not, what other tips do you have for reaching out to other businesses as a way to build your business and hopefully reach new clients? I thought it'd be helpful to cold call, email venues and event planners to start the process of getting my name out there and building relationships with them, as previously most of my business has been word of mouth. So here's what I would do if I were you. I would send your product so they could taste it to event planners, wedding planners, everybody who influences weddings and events. I would hold an event myself where they can sample your item, and I might partner with a group that does event planning or wedding planning. Like a lot of times they have showcases. I used to date someone who did musical showcases for people who were getting married, and they would do it like 6 months in advance, and they'd have all the singers, and she'd play the piano, and she was a masterful piano player, and all these people would come to sample the music. And there are facilities that tell people, come sample a meal with us, sample cake, sample these things, because once people taste something and they love it, they will definitely be ordering it, and price goes out the window, especially for a bride. Most cases, the bride is taking a look and saying, yeah, I have a budget, but I think I'll cut back here because I love sweets. And people love alcohol is a big part of it. Definitely the hors d'oeuvres, but the sweets, they really matter. Probably matter more than the main meal does at the end of the day. Puts people in a great mood when they've had the right kind of sweet. So again, I would drop off to people, here, taste my product. I would run an event, and maybe with other people who could be strategic partners, that maybe it's a facility, maybe it's people who offer carriages, maybe it's people who do write out the invitations, whatever that is. I might partner with those people, and you all would have an event to showcase what you're doing. I would go to bridal shows and have a booth in those bridal shows, especially in the region that you cover. And I would come up with something unique so the media might write about me about it. So if you find that the local newscaster or radio disc jockey is getting married soon, you might say to them and offer that up, that you're going to send them cakes or that you're going to do something special. You might offer to cater it for the local TV personality because you're going to get all this free coverage, or that you'll do it at cost for them. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about doing it, but just cold calling and saying, hey, I offer this, they probably are not taking your call, or they took it and they forget about it. But if you send them something or drop something off and they get to taste it, they're going to go, oh my God, this is delicious. I need to talk to them. I need to offer them up to our clients. So that's what I would do if I were you. The next question is from Sherry Morris. Sherry writes, what do you need to outline in an employee job description? I need to post a job listing to find 2 additional trainers for my aerial fitness studio so that I can get them certified, trained, and ready for launch within the next 90 days. I know that I need a job description before doing this, but I don't know really where to start or what details should be outlined. So I actually know something about this business because I worked with a client in this space. And so I think when you write out the description of what you're looking for, you tell them, here are the kind of customers that we work with. Here is the skill sets that you need to have in order to be one of our trainers. Here is the kind of hours we're expecting from you. We need you to be very personable. We need you to be good at follow-up. We need you to be good at cross-selling other types of things that we offer, because you might not only just offer the aerial fitness, but you might also be offering clothing and private classes and a whole bunch of other different stuff that you might offer. And you would probably want them to have the skill to go not only and train people this, but also cross-sell. So list all the things they're going to be responsible for. And then after that, list all the benefits that they're going to get. Maybe they're getting an hourly wage plus a bonus based on performance. Maybe they're getting a percentage of each of the classes. However you're structuring it, you're going to give them benefits. Are you going to give them retirement benefits? How is that going to work? Do they need to get a certain amount of things done? And take a look at what your competition is posting, because that's going to help you figure out yours. And it's also going to help you figure out, what do I really need to offer people to be competitive in this particular space? And then you might also show them, how do you go, show me what you do. Create a video to show me your skill set. Walk me through your process and methodology for teaching people this. So I think what you're doing is really cool, and I think that you should be in good shape once you put in bulleted detail what the responsibilities are, what your expectations are, and what makes this a great place to go to work for. So I think all that's good. So I wish you the best, Sherry. The next question is from Perry Colgan. Perry writes, how do I evaluate new opportunities, side businesses? I have a stable core business with a great team. We sold 8 figures on Amazon last year. Wow, congratulations. Through the FBA program, and have trained our operations and admin team so that we can step away from the business for a week or train our operations and admin team so we can step away from the business for a week or so at a time. We currently have several ideas for side businesses that complement our core business. Some of them are consulting with other Amazon sellers to help them be more efficient, including on-site workshops or on-site consulting, creating courses to help with the process of efficiency, brand management, helping with people get up and running on Amazon, imagining the presence on the platform for commission, doing private label on Amazon. In all these cases, we could have to hire or build a new team to execute. So how do I decide which idea to act on first? So I can see what you're doing here. You're basically saying we've been successful. We have a lot of different areas that we could teach people how to have the same success as us. How do we go out there and create a side business leveraging what we know? Because I wrote a book on consulting for Entrepreneur Press, and I started something called Consulting University so I could teach people how to be consultants. I have Pitch to Me First to teach people, because I wrote a book on this too, and I've done it, which is how to go and raise capital. So I have that as a business. So I totally get what you're doing here. So I would go and create a spreadsheet about how much money could you make in each of these. Create financial models about what kind of revenue could you bring in, what would you go and charge, how many could you actually handle, and I would create an expense about all of the money it's going to cost to do it, and determine to yourself, is this the best use of time? Could I make the most amount of money doing this? Am I better just staying to my core business and keep growing that? Or and will I, if I take on the side business, will it be a diversion that will actually cost me money and opportunities for this? So for me, I like teaching people how to be consultants. I taught 18 years at universities. I've been doing consulting for 30 years, so I love it, and I look at it as another revenue stream for me. For Pitch to Me First, I look at it as, I love working with companies, helping them figure out what's the best way to pitch to investors, and again, I like having another revenue stream. But for all of them, I looked at the competition, how many people are out there. In the Philadelphia market, there's really almost, as big as Philly is, there's only not even a handful of people who want to spend the time reviewing business plans, giving feedback, and then actually helping the companies develop their investor presentation and business plans. So I knew there were few, so that's why I did it. But if you went and looked online and you said, oh my God, there's like 200 people, 300 people, 1,000 people offering this service, how would you truly differentiate yourself? Maybe you're selling these same services to the people who are buying from you because they're all thinking, I'd like to start a business on Amazon. How could I do it? Well, they've already experienced you, and maybe they'd be willing to pay for it. But is it truly worth the time and effort to create this business? And how long would it take for you to make the kind of money that you would like to make that would make it worthwhile? So maybe you would expand your product line more, but maybe you don't want to do this because you said, geez, there's so many people doing it. I think even Amazon has tutorials about how to go and do this. So you'd have to say to yourself, is there truly a real market for this? Is it an overcrowded market? Could I offer something that people would want to really care about and do? And how many people would I have to contact to do it? Because you'll find out that you might have to contact 100,000 people just to get 100 clients. You know, it would surprise you. And getting those 100 clients won't be easy. And then how much of the time will it take for your staff members to service this new business, or will you have to add new people onto it? So there's a lot to figure out. Even when you're doing the figuring out for people, you'd have to figure out, and I've done this before, figure out the amount of minutes it takes to do every step, and then multiply that out, and then put a dollar figure on what each minute actually cost, so you can figure out what the true cost is going to be, not to mention equipment and phone and computer and insurance. You got to add all those things in. Then you're able to come out with and say, geez, I thought this was a good idea, but not really. Or, my gosh, we have 10,000 customers and we have like a couple hundred every month asking us, would we ever show them how to do it? Well, that could drive you into that business. So put that spreadsheet together, figure out your cost structure, figure out how much you're looking to make, compare it to what is out there already, and see if you can offer a better product service, and see if it actually makes all economic sense at the end of the day. Our next question comes from Yemisi Ekinai. I'm butchering your name, and I so apologize about that. I really need to go to school for improving my ability to phonetically read people's names. Question is, how do you know if you've done all you can to improve your business? We are a math tutoring business and have about 80 to 100 students. We have remained flat. Things are still stagnant, and we think we have looked at every aspect of the business, from pricing to memberships to marketing to staff. We don't want to sell our business because of something we totally overlooked, and then things just take off for another owner. What are things we could do to get back to a growth mode? First of all, I'd want to know, how successful are your students? Do you track after students take your math class how well they've improved their grades? Have you surveyed them and find out if your methodology for teaching it has been good? Because I'm imagining a lot of parents are signing their kids up for your math tutoring, and you need to find out from the kids, how good were we in doing it? And find out from the parents, did the kids' scores really go up? And if the parents go, yes, well, then you need to get endorsements written, and also do video endorsements. And it should be word of mouth. People should be bragging at when they're meeting with other people. Oh, how's your kid doing? Oh my gosh, we hired a math tutor that blew the doors out. My son right now, or my daughter, has gone from a B plus to an A minus or an A. She just got accepted to the schools of her choice. So I can imagine that if you're not getting a lot of referrals, that's the real problem. And if you're not getting referrals, you need to find out why you're not getting referrals. You know, when you're in a service business, you're pretty much reliant on people saying, man, that person was so good, I'm going to tell other people. Just like restaurants. The crappy chain restaurants, they've got to offer two for $20. But the great restaurants, they don't have to offer anything except a great meal. Lawyers don't discount their rate if they're really good, because people tell everybody, oh my God, I've got the best lawyer, the best accountant, the best person to cut my hair, whatever that may be. Even my bicycle shop, I go, wow, they go above and beyond, and I tell everybody I go to the best bicycle shop, and then everybody wants to go and sample that bicycle shop. But if nobody's talking about it, or the kids aren't doing better, that's a problem that you need to fix, and you need to figure out, why aren't they doing better? What could we be doing to improve their skill set? So that's what I think you're going to have to do, and that's what I would do to find this out. So the next question is from Brad Letchworth. Brad writes, what's an acceptable time frame for royalty payments paid to someone when acquiring a business? My wife and I are looking to start a concession business. We have talked with someone who has been in this business for a while with an established name following, and they're looking to exit the business. They're offering us their name and associated things like logos, graphics, etc. They're also willing to turn over current contracts they have and contracts for potential contracts, and are asking for a small percentage in return. There's been no discussion of length of time for paying this fee, but I do feel it needs to have a limit. What's an acceptable offer, and what kind of timeline should we look at for entering such an agreement? If the contracts prove to be fruitful, I don't mind paying the fee, but feel it shouldn't be paid indefinitely. We're not buying any equipment or physical location, basically just purchasing the name logos, graphics, and contracts. Great, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're not buying the corporation itself and any of the debts or liabilities that come with it. Look, it can be any length of time depending how hard this business is. If they have a really well-established name, they could be asking for a percentage of the profits for a 10-year period. Essentially, you need to come to kind of a sales price. So let's say that you're willing to buy this from them for $100,000, but you're not going to write them a check for $100,000. You're going to pay them out of the profits, and that's what it's going to be. And so you're going to say, well, you're asking for $100,000. Since I can't write you a check for $100,000, I will pay you the whole $100,000 back out of profits that will pay over this period of time, plus an additional $25,000, $50,000 that will also pay out over time. So you'll get your asking price plus 25%, whatever you can negotiate with them. And you might say, we're going to provide these royalties for 5 or 10 years. I mean, essentially, they're trusting you based on what you wrote. So you could take that business and do very little with it, and they don't make much of anything because they're not asking even for guarantees from you for this. They're basically saying, I just want out, and they're not looking to even sell it, which I think is questionable. I think you'd have to look at, if it's such a great business, why aren't they getting a business broker to go and sell this business for them and get a set amount of money or a set amount of money plus a percentage to go and do this? So I don't know all the details, but I would take a look and say maybe it's negotiate 3 to 5 years of payments if you think the business, what they built, is that valuable. If you think it's not really that valuable, I'll give them 1 year of payments. But I kind of think 3 to 5 years sounds like a good starting point for this. And if it's like a super great business and they have other people that also want that business, then you're in competition. You might have to stretch it to a longer period of time for them. So again, I would take a look at how well that business is doing. I would talk to the customers and find out how they feel about it. I would talk to potential customers. I would survey out there and find out, do you actually need to buy this name? Is it that much valuable, or is it better just to let them go out of business and start over again? So, and especially you're not buying the equipment or any of those things. But again, asset purchase list and those things are fine, just as long as you're not buying the corporation and the name. I think when you're buying the name, you better check with a lawyer, especially in your particular state, to make sure if you do buy these certain assets, will the liabilities come with them or be implied that they come with them. So talk to an attorney about that. Okay. Another question we have from Ricardo Delgado. Ricardo writes, how do you hire a manager for your company or hire a lead? I have a barbershop and I'm currently still work inside the business. Although eventually I want to step outside the business, that would mean I need to hire a manager or a lead. What do I look for when doing this, or where should I start? So if you're going to hire a manager, here's what I would do. I would put a job description together of what you're looking for. And maybe you even have somebody inside who already could do that work. And then I would go and look for somebody who could do all the work, cutting hair, because sometimes the manager has to step in because one of the barbers didn't show up that day. So make sure they're able to go and do that work. Make sure you like their personality. Find out from people in the community, anybody who might know this particular person, could give you some insights onto them. And then I would give them a 90-day period to show you what they can do. So you'd have to go and spend time training them. And then you have to be hands-off and let them and see how they do in running your business. Make sure that you've put some fail-safes so they don't run you out of business or try to steal your business. But put together a compensation package. It's a combination of salary, bonus based on performance, or a percentage of revenue comes in, especially new revenue that comes in. So if you're doing $200,000 in your barber shop and you tell them, I'm going to put you on this salary, and if we retain our $200,000 worth of customers, you get this bonus. Anything over $200,000, then I'm also going to give you a percentage of the revenue that comes from that as well. So you can do a combination of things to go and do it, but write out what kind of personality do you want? What kind of skill sets do they have to have? How much experience in the industry? Do they have had to manage a shop before you bring them in? Think about all of those things, and then you can go and talk to your customers and say, do you know anybody you think would be good at coming in and working with me that could work their way up from assistant manager to manager of this business? And give them a 90-day window, and then after that make them assistant manager for a period of time, and maybe watch that for a year, see how they do, take some days off, take a week off for vacation, just gradually get them in and see how they do. And then if they're working out, great. If they're not, then you go back to the drawing board and look for somebody else that could come in. The next question is from Melinda Clark. Melinda writes, should I rent a brick and mortar office? I'm a nurse practitioner with a health and wellness practice. Small startup side gig, still not very established. I'm primarily offering concierge home services right now. I keep tossing around the idea of having a brick and mortar location, thinking it might be somewhat easier to market. Of course, that comes with more overhead expenses. I definitely have some fear around this and biting off more than I can chew. To mitigate some of this, I'm also considering, if allowed in the lease, subletting part of the space to other professionals who offer services that complement but don't compete with mine. I plan to reach out to the landlord of the space I'm interested in this Friday to get more information. You told me you're running a nurse practitioner health and wellness practice that is concierge home service. So if nobody's coming to you, why do you need the space? You know, I can't tell you how many times I've had clients that said, I'm going to get space. And I say to them, so people actually come to you? Well, no, nobody comes to me. So why not work out of the local library? Because so many of the local libraries have business centers. Why not just pay a small fee for a WeWorks place or some shared office space where you can pay a minimal amount of money and can work there when you need to? I just don't think it's necessary. I've been working 30 years from home, and I rotate. I work some days from my home. I work some days from the Philadelphia Free Library, which has a really cool business center. I go to my private club. I might be at Starbucks. And my daughter, she has a global marketing practice as well, and she parks herself at different places, has never rented space in her almost 10 years of being in business. So I think in your case, since you're not somebody that people are visiting like a lawyer or an accountant, that you don't need to go and spend the money for that space. Save yourself the money and just focus on getting clients. You have another, Melinda Clark has a second question. Should I form a parent holding company, specifically looking to do this in Wyoming? Start with actually talking to an attorney about this. In Wyoming, every state has different laws, and there's different tax issues involved. This is completely separate from my healthcare business. I purchased my first investment rental property in Florida, November 2022. I live in New York. I'm looking to transfer that party to an LLC. My goal is to acquire more properties eventually and have a separate LLC for each state I invest in. I recently consulted with an attorney in Wyoming after learning that LLCs formed there have more privacy. They do not publicly list personal information. I'm considering a Wyoming parent holding LLC and then opening those additional LLC subsidiaries for each state through the parent company. It's my understanding that we will offer more protection of my assets, and I'll plan to have a lot more assets down the road. Well, first of all, congratulations on building your real estate empire. I would talk to a real estate and tax attorney about this, because it sounds to me that you're not a developer. So real estate developers create separate incorporations because if they get sued in one, it protects them against the others, and I'm sure that's what you're thinking about here as well. But I would go and check with an attorney to ask about what's the best way about going about this, and I would talk to a tax attorney, and I talk to an accountant, and find out what taxes are you going to have to pay regardless of where you're incorporated, and does it make the most sense to be incorporated in Wyoming, or would you be incorporated in each of those states? Again, that's not something I could go and answer for you, except to know that sounds like there's going to be a lot of complications here and a lot of busy work for accountants who are doing your taxes that might mitigate the value of doing it. And of course, you can buy insurance to protect you, and you can always change the corporate structure down the road if you've gotten so many assets that you're worried about that. Because I think for the most part, again, you should talk to a real estate attorney that there might not be, for smaller people like you, the need to have all these different incorporations, and you also want something that protects you in the states that you are, protects the owners, because a lot of states protect the people leasing from you, and you end up spending a lot of money, so you have to take a look at that as well. Well, everybody, it was great to answer all your questions. Hard to believe it. Almost an hour has gone by here. I look forward to seeing your questions next month. I wish you all a very safe and healthy and happy July 4th weekend. Take some time off. Don't work too hard. Try to enjoy it. Kick back. Hopefully the weather will be good. You'll be at the pool or at the park or doing something outdoors, cooking with your family and friends. Enjoy. Everybody take care. Look forward to seeing you next month.